Hi, this is going to be a bit of a different video. Uh, so what I'm doing in this video is I met up with a YouTuber who I like to watch and interviewing him. And I was thinking I could call, if I make this a thing, which I'm hoping I can do, where I can interview more YouTubers, I'm thinking of calling this interview with a YouTuber. Making a name based on the title of the book and movie, Interview with the Vampire. I know. Not that original. But anyways, here is the interview. Greetings, it is I, Z squared of the Magnanite channel, here with a interesting perspective to a new video. Here I am doing a interview with a YouTuber who I've been following, I believe, since your review on one of the Siege seasons of the Netflix series.
That would be my first video ever.
Well, I remember it.
Oh, hello, it is I, PerspectiveEnd.
Thank you for following suit. But anyways, so perspective for the few followers of mine at the moment who may not know you. What kind of content do you do on your channel?
I do mostly Transformers reviews. I have kind of an eclectic channel compared to most other Transformers reviewers. Jeff Goldblum. But my main content is the reviews. I started with the desire to be a movie and TV reviewer, and I just so happened to start with Transformers. And then I made a video that blew up in a very negative way, reviewing the Earthrise toy line, because I was very unimpressed with the Earthrise toy line. Did I say Earthrise? Earthrise toy line. The Earthrise toy line is a lie. It's Earthlies. But yeah, what happened was essentially I saw just one too many glowing reviews of Earthrise Cliffjumper, and I got pissed. Because I was like, this thing fucking sucks, and this toy line fucking sucks, and I had to make a video about it. And then I made the video, and everyone was like, "Oh, this fucking asshole. He's just hater. He's just a stupid hater who hates on like good things. He's just trying to be like controversial." And they all shit on me, and that resulted in the video getting like 20,000 views, and it was like my fourth video ever. And I was like, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lean exactly kind of out of that, which is funny because I still have wound up with the identity of a guy who absolutely hates everything, which isn't true. Like, I could send you picture after picture of where I've gone through, and I've broken down all my videos, and it's like, this is the percent that's positive, this is the percent that's negative, and I'm only negative like 11% of the time or something like that.
Yeah, I remember you pointed that out in a video.
Yeah, it comes to as a shock to everyone, and I can kind of see why. I tend to focus on the negative things. Like I even say, like in my videos, when a figure is too good, I have no idea what to say. I'm far more comfortable about talking about the negative things, about the things that I love, because it's really funny. When I go see a movie and I'll come out of the movie, I'm like, oh, that was the best movie I've seen in like a decade. Oh my God, it was so good. This part sucked, this part sucked, this part sucked, and this part sucked. Did you see those bad effects there? And that's all I care about talking about. Even though I absolutely loved it, I want to talk about the negatives because that's how I'm wired. That's what's like fun to me. That's the interesting thing to dissect.
Hey, there are such things as so bad it's good.
It's not even that it's so bad it's good. Like, it'll be an excellent movie. Like, I just came out of Dune 2, and Dune 2 is an absolutely fantastic movie. It was kind of like a movie that I've needed since childhood. Just that I said it on Twitter. It is the movie that every 80s heavy metal album poster, or every heavy metal album cover, and every movie poster promised us. It just has that look. It's just like there were so many shots in that movie. It was like, oh, it looks like a movie. It looks like a movie poster. I'm so happy. But then I came out of that movie, and all I wanted to do was talk about the things that didn't work in it, and what was wrong. Just because that's what I enjoy. I find the most interesting part of anything what went wrong and what could have made it perfect, as opposed to what was good. Because what was good is you say, "Oh, this was good," and then the other person's response is kind of like, "Yeah, that part was good." Whereas, like if you say something's negative, then you get a debate, or you get like, twists, or you can theorize on the possibilities. You can, the other person can chime in with like, oh yeah, they could have changed this, and or they could have done it this way, and you have like this whole world of futures that you could dissect and think about how you'd fix it, and that's what's really fun to me. Anyways, made the video. Everyone hated it. Turned in, and because I got big doing, or because I got any notoriety at all, talking about a Transformers toy line, then YouTube's algorithm kind of pigeonholed me into doing Transformers reviews, which I'm very happy to do. I'm very thrilled to be able to do Transformers toy reviews. I just had bigger, wider plans, and I think that kind of bled into the actual channel, because I have a short series, which hopefully I hope to have another video out of this series relatively soon, where I rewrite the Transformers Netflix show, because the Netflix show fucking sucked.
Yeah, especially since they did nothing with the whole Elita 1 part being, and all of them that stayed on Cybertron.
I will fight Dr. Lockdown to the death on this. That shouldn't have been in the show at all. That was the worst part of the second season, because it is a complete and total cul-de-sac. It has no point existing whatsoever. It is not the main plot of the series. It is just this thing that's like, well, this can't matter. It's just distraction from the actual plot that matters.
Yeah, it was just bad filler.
Yeah, it was just filler. And like, maybe it was well done filler. I didn't happen to think it was well done filler. I happen to think it was actually really, really badly done filler.
I agree with you. It was bad filler, because it added nothing to the plot, and in the next season it all meant nothing because
they were all dead, which was so amazing. I was like, that was so frustrating, because I was like, there were so many moments in that show that just don't work, and you got that scene where Elita is fucking like, she's picking her handcuffs with the scalpel that Shockwave like left next to her. She's picking it. It's like, oh, is she gonna get free? Is she gonna get free? And it's like, you see the fucking bomb counting down, and it's like, oh, 10, 9, 8, 7, and then it blows up like a nuclear bomb, and it's like, oh, like there's no. Like, even if she got free, because the other people, they weren't even in the base. They got free, turned, and fucking ran. And they still got hit with the explosion. There was no tension in her picking her handcuffs, because she couldn't have gotten, like, even... she wouldn't have gotten 1% of the way away from escaping, even if Shockwave just unlocked her cuffs for her and said, go free.
Yeah, and in Earthrise, when they showed the fate of Elita 1, I almost laughed as hard at them trying to speed run through the Dinobot arc.
Oh, I did laugh. I laughed so hard, because it was just like, every fucking thing in that show is just a joke, because it's so badly handled.
Yeah, like I said, I did laugh, but what made me laugh harder was Kingdom's handling of Dinobot.
Kingdom, here's the thing, is I didn't laugh at Kingdom's handling of Dinobot. I am very, I very much view Dinobot as having, like, basically a perfect story, and anything that you could add to it would only lessen it, because you take something that was perfect already and you make it less perfect. You have to be very, very careful. And so them sitting there and them being like, well, not even just speed running, it was just that, because if anything, it was kind of like abnormally slow, because he switched over to the good guy side in Beast Wars originally, like on the first episode. Well, at the end of the first episode. But with this, it was like there's a problem that I find that a lot of not a lot of modern writers, all writers do this. Hold on.
You're kind of going robotic there.
Well, remember, you're not recording me. I'm recording me.
So I sound fine to me.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's just that there was a bunch I missed because it was cutting out while making you sound all robot-like.
Okay, So I said what I said is there's a problem that a lot of basically all nerd writers have, and that's I like this thing. So I'm going to foist my idea of this thing onto it, and I'm going to make it even cooler. So what they did is they looked at Dinobot, who they were like, I love Dinobot. Dinobot's such a great hero. And they only could view him through the lens of Dinobot as the hero, who he died as in Beast Wars. And as a result, like both the comic book that Bob Forward wrote. Bob Forward wrote the new IDW, or the semi-new IDW comic book for Beast Wars, and they wrote he didn't write the new show, but they wrote the Kingdom show. And in both of them, they just make Dinobot this absolutely heroic, selfless, good person on the Predacon side, and that's just not who Dinobot was. Dinobot was a bad person who had good qualities and wound up on the side of the good guys, and over time learned to be a better person because of it, and then gave up his life becoming the hero that he was always meant to be. But in both of the new things, it's just like, no, it doesn't even make sense why he's on the Predacon side. The Predacons are bad guys, and this is a Silverbolt-esque good guy on the bad guy team.
Yeah, I felt like they unintentionally ignored the original Dinobot's final wish.
Yeah, no, tell it truly, tell my story, tell it truly. Yeah, no, that's the thing. And that's what nerd writers do, is they love this thing. So this thing it's the, not only is he super cool, but he's the best fighter and he's the goodest dude. And it's just like, no, let the thing be the thing that it is. Let it have its faults. Let it not be the most powerful thing ever. Just let it be. Because it's better that way. It's better when it's... And then he fucking... In the Kingdom show, he died like an absolute bitch. He basically takes an attack that would have kind of like annoyed someone else and then is like, I'm dying, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which since we both grew up on Beast Wars, to me, it's like... Because of the way he died and how quickly they were trying to get through his arc... why I kind of retroactively laugh at it, because I find it rather how they mishandle it a little kind of funny.
I more just sat there and I was like, get him off screen. Just don't. I don't need this the entire time. And when he died, I was like, oh, that was dumb.
Yeah. At this point, they're just trying to turn him into the next cliff jumper, where all he's known as is his death.
I mean, to be fair, like that's the primary thing. Like that's kind of what he should be known for, is like the culmination of this entire story arc, because that's what that was. That was this massive story arc that all fucking crescendoed in this beautiful final moment. But instead, Anyways, so do you? I've just been kind of rambling about what I want to talk about. This is an interview. You have questions.
Yeah. But you actually, as you explained what got you, with my first question, you kind of explained away my next question was what got you into reviewing the toys, and it's because of your favorite punching bag, Earthrise Cliff Jumper.
A few people have said that they think that Shadow Striker is going to become my new Earthrise Cliff Jumper, just because of how much I don't like that thing. But Shadow Striker will not be and cannot be, because she does not represent the same thing to me. Shadow Striker is a toy it just has no value whatsoever, whereas Earthrise Cliff Jumper is the figure that proved to me that the War for Cybertron toy line could fail me. After Siege was so good, and every single, even the worst figure in Siege, I'd say was a 6 out of 10. Earthrise came out and it was like, oh, hey, here's a 3 out of 10 right out the gate. Here's a thing that we didn't try. Deal with it.
And then they recloned it how many times unnecessarily?
Oh my God, there's so many versions of that, and I didn't like that thing the first time. And here, people assume that I don't like Cliff Jumper. It's fun to joke about how much Cliff Jumper sucks. Cliff Jumper's an idiot. It's very fun to clown on him in the G1 show, because he is a guy who constantly goes, oh, I'm gonna go kick your ass, and then he gets rumbled himself. So that's always very funny. But I don't dislike Cliff Jumper. I really wanted a good Cliff Jumper for my collection, and that's one of the reasons why the Earthrise figure stung so bad, is I had my expectations set so high And then here is this figure that comes out, and it's so bad for a character that I do actually like.
Which actually leads me to a confession. Something I thought I keep buried to my deathbed about this embarrassment for a Transformer fan. I never knew about G1 until the Bayverse movie came out.
That is impressive considering the fact that you said you grew up on.
Yeah, I grew up watching Beast Wars, and my first figure, as you probably remember from a couple of my comments, was the Transmetal Optimus Primal. But but again, like I all the references to G1, I thought, oh, that's just world building. Because there's some shows back then they just added random bullshit world building just to make the world in it seem bigger.
That is impressive because not only is like Optimus Prime is just one of those, like the original Optimus Prime is one of those most iconic like robot designs of all time, where you'd see him on bumper stickers before bumper stickers like really took off. You would see him on bumper stickers and like in commercials and whatnot, even after the show was no longer on the air.
Yeah, my first Optimus Prime that was named Optimus Prime was in Robots in Disguise.
Which is only semi technically true, because that's Fire Convoy and not Optimus Prime.
Yeah, in the Japanese dub, and later in life, after when I started learning about G1, I started learning other things like how the first Robots in Disguise was technically part of the G1 canon timeline.
I don't like to use the term dub for like the language that the show aired in, because that implies like oh yeah, this is their version of that, as opposed to this is the correct version of that. I think that the like, as much as I don't like pretty much all of the Japanese Transformers, I do think that their version is the correct version of their stuff.
Yeah. No, I only use dub because one of the other things I like is anime, and anime is typically separated as it's either subbed or dubbed into whatever language you.
I am very aware of anime. I used to be a much bigger anime fan than I am currently, but that's just because I don't have the time for anything anymore. You'd be amazed at how much, like, being a toy reviewer, when you insist on quality levels that I.
Yeah, no, you definitely have such a setup, and I can see how it takes time, and especially when you have to go to the white box.
Oh, the big white box. Yeah, the big white box sucks. It's like breaking that out. It's not a ton, but when you're already like dealing with so much time, like breaking out the big white box probably adds like an extra hour to
video that I make with it.
Just to set it up, right?
Well, the box is relatively easy to set up, but like I have to kind of change everything, and I kind of have to like move different. Just the fact that like the big white box has like so much space on me that I have to put the camera in a different position, and I have to like angle everything different. It's enough more work that I'd say adds an hour on to the recording process. At which point, when you're already in a 6-hour recording session, a 7-hour recording session is enough more as to be like really annoying. I need to stop Jeff Goldbluming all over the place with my ums and my ahs.
But anyways, on to one of the next questions. What has been your favorite figure to review?
What has been my favorite figure to review? That's a very that's I can't answer which one's been my favorite figure to review, because like the reviewing process is kind of brutal. Long scripting sessions, all this stuff. I'll say that when I get really proud is when or when I get really happy, when one of my favorites kind of like emerge, is when I come up with a joke and I'm like, yes, the joke is perfect. This is exactly what I want it to be. And that happens fairly infrequently, or when the whole thing just comes together, because my favorite to review would be something that I never have to take off the turntable and like leave it there. But my favorite reviews that I've made, where the end result is like, yes, this is what I dreamed of. This is what I wanted. The Grimlock, what's the best, is up there. Just because there aren't that many jokes in that, but I did get a few in there that I really liked. Specifically, I'm thinking of when I used the Iron Factory Grimlock to like devour Earthrise Cliffjumper. That effect it's a shitty effect. It is a shitty effect. I cannot stress you enough how shitty that effect is, and it still took me 3 hours to make that effect. It was a pain in the ass. Basically, because I was going in and I was just masking out like 2 shots, and I had to refilm that like 4 times just that way I could line up the 2 shots that I was using and have like equal lighting, because there was one time where it was lined up beautifully, and the lighting, I realized that I was casting a shadow into the box, so you could see where I was cutting the 2 images together really harshly. That pissed me off super bad. I was also very thrilled with how the Tiger Hawk video came out. I love how the Tiger Hawk video came out. I absolutely one of my proudest moments in a very long time has been the little that part, and then the callback to Little Timmy, who got the spoilers inside Ultra Magnus. It was just mwah, mwah. This is what I want. This is what I live for. Is being able to have these jokes and to do stupid shit like this. I always say like to myself, because like one of the problems I find is that my format is great. It's super helpful at making the videos and always making sure that I have like a watchable thing at the end. But at the same time, it also, like, if I don't think hard enough, it leads to videos where I think that I kind of bleed out personality and it gets a little boring. And I always have to like remind myself, it's like, no, be stupid and weird. Make more jokes. Make jokes, idiot.
Sometimes it leads to to the video ending in the middle of your sentence, like with Shockwave.
Oh my god, I don't know why everyone finds that so funny. That legitimately was just basically like a compiling error in the video. I don't know what was quite wrong with it. Because I always do I do a walkthrough, and that was like my third rewatch, like my third iteration of that video. Because I'll make the video, I'll render it out, and then I'll start watching the video, and I'll get to the end, and I'll be like, okay, so this was wrong, there was a miscued audio here, oops, I left something like over the screen here, and then I'll go re-render it. And this one, I did several versions of that, and it got to the point where I was like so annoyed, and I'd watch the video like 5 times by the point that it was going to get uploaded, that I was just like, okay, I'm fucking done with this. So I rendered out the video, and I just like clicked through the video to check the parts that I had changed. And then I went to the end to make sure that nothing got cut short. So I clicked through it. It was fine. I got to the end. The video like started over. It was fine. Everything was good. But apparently there was some kind of error in the video where if you watched through a specific second, it would crash the player. You had to be on that second. You had to watch that second of the video and it would crash the player. And because I was clicking through the video, I never wound up on that second. So when I uploaded it to YouTube, I guess YouTube also had like that moment, like crash the uploader or something like that. And it just was like, oh no, that's fine. It didn't tell me there was an error or anything like that. It was just, that's fine. And then it went.
But reading through the comments on that must have been entertaining for you.
It was, I wouldn't say it was entertaining. It was like, I got to the first like one where it was like arms go and I was like, what? And I asked them what. I probably asked it like 3 times, and I realized like everyone's commenting on something over and over and over again, and I have no idea what they're talking about. I have to watch this to see what the fuck is going on. And I got to the end, and I was so pissed when the video like hit arms go and then ceased, just turned off. I got so angry. I was livid. I was like so pissed. I mean, to an extent, I still to this day have no comprehension as to why everyone thinks that part is so funny. Because I mean, I lean into it. I'll make the jokes again and again because people seem to like them. But I don't get it. I would have been like, if I was watching a video, I'd be like, oh well, that sucks for that guy, and I'd click off and probably never watch again. But yeah, no, that.
Because eventually,
I don't think.
I believe at one point you continued the meme by asking for like your everyone's theories on what happened.
I don't remember doing that. I can't say that I didn't do that. I mean, when I've made 540 something video, or no, 500, let's say actually, 558 videos. And then on top of that, I don't number the shorts. So there's like
Because I remember at one point you asked about because you just accepted it and you said something about making theories or something, and I believe one of the comments I made was that Hasbro sent a Waspinator as an assassin.
that sucks for Waspinator. He is going to get wrecked. Anyways, what other questions do you have?
So so what has been one of your favorite all-time Transformer figures have you ever owned?
Oh man, you gotta hit me with these hard questions. Obviously, the Giga Power Grimlock, that thing's like, it's not as good a toy as some others. Just because they didn't engineer in what I think is like enough articulation. But that thing, oh my god, just looking at it, it's a work of art. Probably like basically there's two figures. I'll go with two figures. I'll hit you with two figures. The two that I would say are like my two favorite of like all time, the two that basically got me back into Transformers, and that would be Masterpiece Soundwave. Masterpiece Soundwave is so good. The figure's so fun. It's exactly what it needed to be. It's basically perfect. I legitimately like don't see what people like. Oh, people are like, oh, it's got bad articulation. No, it doesn't. It's got way better articulation than normal. I don't even know what you're on about. Oh, well, the hips are bad. Well, you just flip the joint on the hip around, and then the joint for the hip will go any way you want it to. I don't see the problem here. But yeah, the Masterpiece Soundwave, one of the best transformations of all time. And then also Titan's Return Trigger Happy, which was the figure that made me like convinced me that Titan's Return was worth my time, because before that I was like, I wanted nothing to do with Titan's Return because I didn't like Headmasters. And then I looked at that and I was like, well, it looks kind of cool, whatever, it's probably stupid, and I bought it. It's got the other it's got like the other best transformation of all time, and I was like, oh, is this toy line actually really good? I need more.
Yeah. Yeah. So now that we've gone through some of your favorite hits, what has been some like the least favorite figures you've reviewed outside of Cliff Jumper, of course?
So there are very few, like, despite all my rage, very few of the figures that I get do I see like no value in. Like often it's my anger is usually directed at the fact that it was like they charged us this much money and they didn't deliver on like, 2/3 of it, but I'll still see like one aspect of it is as good or useful.
Or it's a red figure.
Yeah, as the red figures, they just don't deliver on anything, and they suck. So obviously the red figures, most of the red figures I bought, and I'm like, I really could have lived without these. The Bumblebee movie Soundwave, that thing just does nothing well. There's no positive quality about it that I really feel. It poses badly, it transforms badly, and the alt mode is absolutely fucking nothing. So I don't. I didn't pay for that one, which was lucky. But yeah, no. Wait, what are you talking about?
Yeah, one of the things that they announced, like, but didn't show like any uh, actual product images, is a larger scale Bumblebee movie Shockwave.
Are you sure that's not sound? You mean Soundwave?
Oh, no. I guess I misunderstood sometimes I get the two characters mixed up because they have waves in their name, but yeah, I totally agree with the sound wave from the Bumblebee movie.
Yeah, he sucks. He's got nothing good going on. Recently I got, or not recently, but last year I got that X Transbots Voyager Optimus Prime, and that thing just has one of the worst transformations I've ever handled. What is it? There's a G Creations. G Creations IDW Optimus Prime is quite possibly the worst transformation I've ever handled. I dread when I do an update to my What's the Best Optimus Prime, because that guy's going to have to be on there. And that transformation is just this shitty, hellish nightmare where basically he just flays out into a bunch of like tentacles with parts on them. And then you have to take those tentacles and create a shell of the alt mode. And it's fucking nightmarish.
So basically, a Eldritch horror.
Yeah, basically an Eldritch horror. Basically, if you've ever played Dead Space 3, when you shoot the guys in half and all the tentacles come out of their waist, those guys. That's that Optimus Prime. I think you'll find that for me, probably the most important thing about any figure is going to be the transformation. If it's got a good transformation, I can forgive a lot. And if it's got a really bad transformation, that's when I go like, okay, fuck this thing entirely.
Yeah. So I can probably guess that as far as Transformers series go, Beast Wars is your at the moment your current all favorite, right?
I don't ever see it being replaced as my number one. Beast Wars is absolutely my favorite. What's funny about me is I love the Transformers. I love watching the Transformers. I don't think a lot of the Transformers media. I think most of the Transformers media is actually really bad. So basically it goes Beast Wars, which is just like excellent in all ways. Then you got G1 for just a cheesy, good, classic 80s cartoon time. And then you got animated for a pretty good story, really endearing characters. And then everything after that, I haven't seen all of Earthspark. What I've seen of Earthspark, it seemed pretty good. It seemed like it might like be a pretty high contender. But basically everything after that, it's just like I wouldn't qualify any show after that as good. Beast Machines is a travesty.
We don't talk about Beast Machines.
Yeah, we don't talk about Beast Machines. Beast Machines is a travesty. Prime is boring beyond all comprehension. Cyber Missions is obviously just a sin. Like, yeah, I have the Japanese Beast Wars continuations I don't care for. I don't like basically any of the Transformers animes.
And we also try not to acknowledge the travesty known as Transformers Energon.
Oh yeah, Transformers. Oh well, I suppose I liked Armada. I haven't seen Armada in literally 20 years. But I remember liking Armada a lot, and I remember Starscream being really good in that. I'd have to rewatch it to really confirm how I feel on that, but I suppose I can say that that's one more thing that it's like that can go in the good camp for me. But pretty much, like for every 5 Transformers shows, I'd say 3 of them are bad, like really bad.
Like, in my opinion, with Energon, like the story itself is like, it's like. I question how it went past quality control. But the toys that came out of there, I actually enjoyed. Like, I did not like the show, but I did like the toys.
Yeah, that's always like I mean, I didn't like, I take that back. For every 10 Transformer shows, 9 of them are terrible. But look at Siege and Earthrise and Kingdom. Most of the toys in that toy line were pretty excellent. Like even like after the first couple waves of Earthrise really kind of started balancing out and having better figures. And what pisses me off about Earthrise specifically is when everyone's like, well, COVID was like, it was in the midst of COVID. So of course everything got bad for a while. It's like, no. The worst parts of Earthrise were before the COVID lockdowns.
People don't understand how development and R&D works.
Yeah, no, this stuff was all underwork and being produced before COVID. It was sitting in a warehouse during the start of it, and then when the lockdowns hit, it was finally shipped out. But that was all like settled long before COVID, and then during COVID, it actually got better.
Yeah. Um. So here's like a curveball that's kind of off subject. So in one of the videos, you made a mention of this one gaming franchise called Disgaea. So what Disgaea games have you played? Because that's one of my favorite game franchises.
I've never finished one. I started one. I didn't get very far in it. I've watched actually the anime about the first game. I don't know how well it lines up with the actual first game. 2 was the first of the games that I ever played, and 2 is still absolutely my favorite in terms of story by a country mile. And then I played up through D2. I haven't played 6 or 7 yet. But those are the only 2 I haven't played. I own both of them. I just haven't found the time because basically those came out like after I started YouTube, so I haven't had the time to go play them because those are giant time sinks of games.
Yeah, no. I also played Disgaea, and so I know exactly what you mean by giant time sinks.
Yeah. The funny thing is I think that 2 is pretty much the only game in the franchise that has a well-written story. Everything else is kind of like I love the gameplay, but like 4 I'll give the credit of being like a really good comedy, but 3 is suffering incarnate as a fucking story, and then 5 is worse.
I haven't played 5, but
let me hit you with the most offensive things about 5. 1, in 5, the main villain kills everyone in every universe except for like the 5 main characters of that game. So Laharl, Adele, Roslyn, Valvatorez, Almaz, they're all dead canonically as in 5. They get killed so that way the main villain can absorb their souls. Everyone in every universe. So like all societies, everyone in them is wiped out. The Prism Rangers, they're all dead too. Everyone's dead so he can absorb their souls so that way he could resurrect his sister so he can fuck her.
What?
Yes, I'm not even kidding. It's that fucking stupid Japanese incest bullshit where they're like, oh my god, the brother loves the sister so much he destroyed the universe so that way he could resurrect her from the dead and have sex with her. And it's like, oh my god, this dude is so fucking lame. He's weak, he's fucking just it's so lame that they're like, oh yeah, no, everyone else dies so that way this loser can fucking do this. Oh god, 5 story sucks about it. And the main character is edgy, the villain is edgy as shit, and the other one, everyone around the main character is just annoying. Yeah, 5 is like, and you know what, I'll give 5 this. 5 has good gameplay. The gameplay in 5 is fine. Fucking 3 is the fucking sin on the franchise. I hate 3 so much. 3 is there's nothing to be had because 3 has a bad story paired with the worst gameplay. You know what pissed me off is that they were like, oh, well, we're demons, so we cheated everything. So instead of having your character progression be like real, you don't have character progression. Instead, you just get currency and you use that to buy your character progression. It was like, this is lame. This is lame as fuck. And it made it grindier than ever. That's already a grindy game series. And to get currency to buy your fucking progression just made it unbelievably grindy.
Yeah, but one thing I do have to give like the single credit to 3 is that it shows off like the main reversal in the Disgaea games that they present throughout the franchise, where in all the games you're technically playing as, with except for 2, a demon, and at some point the bad guys that you fight against are traditionally good guys.
I don't know that I necessarily say that about that, but also I will say that it got really, really, really fucking annoying in that game. The way that like fucking what's her name? What's her McNugget? Rosemary or whatever her name is, and she was like, "Oh my god, so badass! You just helped that old lady across the street." It's like, stop saying badass. You sound stupid saying it, and you're using it wrong.
But I was talking more like the whole how you get labeled as in that game as a delinquent versus how you are labeled as a honor student.
You know what I miss? I miss in Disgaea 2, the crime system where you were trying to get felonies as much as possible, and it was like that was funny and great, and it really let it fix. By the way, if you've played Disgaea D2 is a sequel to Disgaea 1 in terms of story, but it's definitely the gameplay sequel of 2. It's like, okay, like let's go back to what 2 was in terms of gameplay and then expand on all that. And that game, holy shit, they broke so many systems by like trying to make them better that's easily the easiest game in the franchise. And when I beat the final boss in the game, I had fucking learned how to cheese it so fucking hard that the regular fighter, it was an axe-based fighter, he beat the final boss, he struck the final blow, and he jumped 140 levels. That's how cheesed these strats were, because they gave you the ability. So the Heavy Knight, they replaced the Heavy Knight with a female Heavy Knight in that game, and the female Heavy Knight had this ability where she could dive in and take the hit 3 times per round for other characters from anywhere on the map. She would just teleport in and take the hit. So what you could do is you'd have her sat at the back of the map, and you'd give her the fucking heaviest gear you could give her, so that way she could never counterattack because she was too slow to counterattack. And then you'd have 2 white mages just casting defense buff and heal on her constantly, and then like it didn't matter. Anyone could throw like anything at any of your characters, like the strongest attack, and it'd be like, oh, she took 10 damage, and she took the hit instead of the character who was supposed to take the hit. So you were just basically invincible as long as this, and this is how I cheesed this strat. And eventually, when I got to the final boss was like dropping so many AoEs. Eventually, I ran out of magic and I ran out of items to recover my magic. And this was this fight took me an hour 30. And I used like literally just all of my characters, and eventually they were all dead except for one final regular fighter who was an axe fighter. And this guy, I'd been attacking him. I'd used up all my magic, and I was down. This guy was my second strongest unit at the time, and he could take 2 hits from this boss before dying. And he'd already taken 1, and the boss was down to 6,000 health. And using my magic, I'd only ever managed to do 4,000 on any attack with this particular character. And I was sitting there, I was like, motherfucker, I'm going to lose. I'm out of magic for my fighter. He can't hit harder than 4,000, even with magic. And now I just have a normal attack in 1 hit on my life. I'm fucked. And I just made my regular attack, and he fucking crit. He crit for literally 3 points more than the amount he needed to kill the boss.
True anime protagonist moment there.
Oh, I'm not kidding you when I say that when that happened, I jumped out of my chair and I spent the next 30 straight minutes just hyping up that piece of code. I was like, I didn't believe in you, man, but you pulled through! You're the fucking MVP carrying this team on your fucking back! It was just 30 straight minutes of that. I was like just grinning ear to ear as the credits for the whole game fucking played. Anyways, big Disgaea fan over here. I always call it Disgaea though, just because that's how I read the title.
Yeah, they kind of spell it weird compared to with how it's spelled compared to how it's pronounced.
I don't think I'm dyslexic. I think I just like to read too fast and give up. So instead of reading it as Disgaea, which would be Disgaea, I read it as Disgaea. Or something like that. I can't remember how I initially read it, but it was just I read it as Disgaea, and then that stuck with me, and I felt like it was a more unique title than Disgaea. Anyways,
going back on topic, I guess another question I can throw out is, what has been your favorite Transformers toy line versus what's your least favorite?
My favorite Transformers toy line is it's going to be pretty simple. It's Siege. Okay, so that kind of depends. My favorite of all time, the one that means the most to me, that's obviously going to be the original Beast Wars toy line, just because that's so fundamental to who I am. If we're talking since I reintroduced myself into collecting, Siege is going to be my favorite toy line. just because Siege was so good. Siege was nothing but bangers. Honorable mention to Titan's Return. I don't have like all of Titan's Return, and I normally hate Headmasters, but so much of that line was so creative and it was trying so hard that I can't help but like actually really love it. And then my least favorite toy line since I got back into collecting. Honorable mention on least favorite to Combiner Wars, just because I think a lot of the combiners in Combiner Wars kind of sucked, and a lot of the figures were really compromised to be bad combiners in Combiner Wars.
Yeah, and didn't help that most of them were pretty much retools or recolor.
Yeah, constant retools. That was just endless retools. I think people are way too hard on Power of the Primes. Power of the Primes, I think, was way better than Combiner Wars.
Oh yeah, it has my favorite figure of Optimus Prime, but that
one.
Yeah, the Power of the Primes Optimus.
Yeah, the upgrade. Yeah, that one fucking rules. I love that Optimus. It's so fucking cool and different.
Figure alone caused me to not buy another Optimus Prime until they came out with that core class Optimus. So I spent like literal years not collecting an Optimus because I was already, nope, I got the best one.
Yeah, no, like he legitimately. I said it before. I think that it's like that thing basically does like 70 to 80% of what the Masterpiece Optimus Prime does. So like if you got that, then you got a budget masterpiece. But it's not a budget masterpiece anymore now that thing's like on eBay for like $150. But whatever. I was actually planning on like for a while, I was thinking about being a Transformers YouTuber. And when that came out, I was like, oh, I could make a video. I should make a video on this. I should start being a YouTuber and make a video on this Optimus and tell people that this is a budget masterpiece. So then, anyways, if we're gonna go honorable, so we did honorable mention Combiner Wars worst toy line. But like if we go like honorable, like past mention, I think the worst Transformers toy line from like before I got back into collecting would be either. It would be either the RID 2001 toy line, just because like so many of those transformations just they weren't very fun, or it would be the Alternators toy line, just because all of those transformations weren't any fun. But if we're talking, since I got back into collecting, Earthrise is like I wouldn't say again. I don't think that Earthrise is a bad toy line, but I don't think that I think about half of Earthrise is really pretty awful. And yeah, I'll give the worst toy line since I got back into collecting to Earthrise, even though I think it's okay overall by the end.
Yeah, and with me, one of my favorite toy lines, even though there's plenty of figures that you can call stinkers and all that, was the Cybertron toy line, because I just kind of like how they dealt with the gimmick of it with the Cyber Planet Key. Being just flipping out a simple weapon or some kind of a mode, quote unquote, mode enhancement.
By the way, I forgot about the cyber. Like, if we're talking like things that were so bad, I chose not to collect them at all. The Cyberverse toy line was always insultingly awful. Like, you just look at those things and be like, this isn't even for babies. I don't know who this is for, but it sucks beyond belief.
Oh yeah, like. I skipped over Cyberverse, but like I said, I was talking about Cybertron.
Yeah, no. I understand that you're talking about Cybertron. I was just saying that, like, if we're counting, lines that came out after I got back into collecting, there was one line that was so blatantly awful that I just refused to buy anything from it, and that was Cyberverse.
I remember that you used to run a Discord server that was part of your channel, which I was also in until they decided to shut it down after when you decided to leave. Have you started any more Discord servers to send your fans?
Well, yeah, no, I never, like, when I didn't shut that one down necessarily. I was just like, okay, I'm divesting myself of this server because this server is bad. Please move over to this other server. Like, at the very moment, like, I was like, okay, I'm starting a second server. I'm starting a new server where we don't have the baggage of this one, so that way we can have a better chance of like keeping this place from turning into an inferno of hell. But yeah, no, there's always been, ever since I divested myself of that first channel, there was always a new server. It's in the description of every video.
And when I put this video out, I'll also make sure to put a link to that Discord server as well.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, people have access to it through my YouTube channel. The new server, for a while, it was a bit rocky, but it's been going really well recently. We added a couple dozen mods, or not a couple dozen mods. We added about like a half dozen mods, and with that, it just seemed to finally. We're actually kind of joking that like. According to most people, like I don't tend to visit other YouTuber discords a lot, but apparently like we've gone from being like the worst server out there to like the best Transformer server according to a lot of people. Just I think that I attribute that to we started with the worst one and we basically got our baptism in fire where we were like, okay, so this is all the stuff that can go wrong. Meanwhile, other people started in a nice place and they declined to the point where they were experiencing what we experienced when we started, but we already got the learning phase out of the way. So we're like, okay, so we know what the problems are. Let us set up the new server, or let us police now, like we know what the problems are. So yeah, we think. I don't think, because I don't have really any opinion on it, because I don't go to other YouTuber servers, but I have been told by several people that it's like, wow, this is the nicest one. I was like, what do you mean this is the nicest one? This is famously a hell pit. What's going on? Yeah, no, it's gotten better. We have less need to discipline people. It's gotten a lot nicer, and it's cool to see it not on fire for once. Yeah.
So, you have brought up the comics a few times. So what of the Transformer comics have you read?
I read all of the original IDW run. I read up to issue 19 of the IDW 2.0, and the only reason I didn't read beyond that point is because that's when I became a YouTuber, and I ran out of time for it. At which point, it ended, and it just kind of felt like, oh, like this ended like what, 30 issues in or something like that. That feels like I don't know what the consensus is on that. It just feels like they couldn't have like done it justice in the amount of time that they had. I read like the first 6-7 issues of the Beast Wars IDW reboot. And so far I've read up to, I think, chapter 4 or 5, or issue 4 or 5 of the Skybound stuff.
Yes, I've also been reading the Skybound stuff as well, including like Void Rivals and some of the other comics that's part of that, I guess, universe or something that they established.
So far, I've only been on the main numbered book. I have not gotten to Void Rivals or any of the other stuff.
So, how are you enjoying the Skybound Transformers so far?
It's pretty good. I like their depiction of Optimus Prime. I think it has a tone issue though, because it oscillates violently back and forth between just absolutely heartwarming and borderline saccharine to edgy as fuck. And it's like, okay, can you step back on the edge, even out the tone a little bit, because Starscream just going around and popping human children like zits because he thinks it's funny is like, you're going a little too hard here. It just, I'm liking the hopeful, like, happy tone. Chill out just a little bit on the violence.
All right. And any figures that has been announced or leaked that you're looking forward to?
I mean, obviously the MMC Constructicons, so I don't think that's what you're asking about. I'm looking forward to the Silverbolt that Legacy's coming out with, though I do have qualms. I think that they kind of, I don't want to say botched the sculpt, but the sculpt is definitely wrong. They've taken a lot of liberties with his design, on just like a like not on a build front. Like his skeleton is correct. It's just everything on top of it is like, what if I drew this guy instead of the original design, which irks me because he kind of stands out. He is definitely more changed than any of the other Kingdom figures just on a sculpting front alone. The tidal wave, I'm looking for the tidal wave. That looks pretty good. I think Magmatron looks cool. A lot of people don't actually understand my issue with that. He was always a parts room. He's made out of three things. I'm not complaining that he's made out of three things. I'm complaining that like half of the plesiosaur just gets left off entirely. Like if they use the whole plesiosaur and they use the whole pterodactyl and they use the whole T-Rex, I'd be cool with it. But instead, it's like 90% the T-Rex, 5% the pterosaur, or not pterosaur, sorry, pterodactyl. Was I saying pterosaur? And like 5% the plesiosaur, and the rest of the plesiosaur is just shunted off somewhere else as a shield. That's the part that I'm taking issue with. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, obviously, I hope that they come out with a rampage and a depth charge.
Oh yeah, I would love to have new figures of those two.
I would kill for those so hard.
Yeah, one of the figures I myself am looking forward to is that HasLab Omega Prime. Like as soon as they announced it, I backed it on day one.
I have to answer everyone's questions. Yes, I have in fact backed that myself. And it definitely seemed like a worthy price for that. I know there was a lot of consternation where people were like, "Oh, it's not a $250 figure." It's like, are you sure about that? Because it's giving you an awful lot for what you pay. I can guarantee you that I have seen worse deals in this fandom.
Yeah, even without the stretch goals, you're still getting a decent deal. And if they did put in the main line as two commanders and a deluxe, then I think they wouldn't be as big as they are, and there would have been even more hollowing on the limbs than compared to what was on the original figures, and probably some of the functions that they kept in taken out or tooled out, because a lot of people their claims is that they could have just made two commanders and deluxe and call it.
I mean, that's the same argument you can make for like Star Saber.
Yeah, true. But I was like kind of disagreeing with how, because as I mentioned, if they did do it that way, then there would be these issues that will pop up. And then on top of that, we both know that the Orbital Magnets would probably not sell that well.
Potentially, yeah. So, you got another question?
Yeah. So, of the videos you've done, what video seemed to surprise you with how well it done?
The original, like way back when I started, the original conspiracy theory video where I was like, okay, so I think that they did this with Wheeljack, blah blah blah. That did really surprisingly well. I was kind of shocked by how well that did. What also shocked me is every conspiracy theory video I've done since has done terribly. So that's also been surprising. The original rewriting Siege video did better than I expected. I expected to get like called a giant cringy idiot for making that, and the response to that was always really positive. So that surprised me. What was funny is the Bumblebee video I did just the other day. That really surprised me.
And that was the animated Bumblebee review?
Yes, the animated one. Just because that video came under time. Normally, if my videos are less than 8 minutes long, they get just trashed in the views. And that came in at like 720 or something like that. And a lot of it, I felt like I didn't review the figure enough. But it came out and it did a well bit better than average. So yeah, that one did surprise me.
All right. So if anyone is interested in following you, what social media do you have connected to your accounts outside of YouTube and Discord?
Well, for the most part, it's basically the YouTube. I have a Twitter where I just post stupid shit most of the time. Just a Perspective End channel Twitter. It's mostly I made it with the intention of it being like for show updates, and then like over time, I just kind of like I just started posting like funny observations and stuff like that. So it's dumb photoshops, just random bullshit. Uh, and then there is also a Reddit, which I did not start really early on. One of my fans just was like, "Hey, let's make a Reddit for the channel." So I have my own channel Reddit as well. And then there's a second fan, a completely different fan, who was like, "I'm going to make a Wikipedia for you," and they stopped a long time ago. But in that time, there was quite a few. I think it was like the first 300 videos I made wound up on that Reddit, or not that Reddit, that Wikipedia. But yeah, I don't have an Instagram. I don't have a TikTok, anything like that. I I am not found. I'm not rife with time to do things other than what I already do.
So what? So after going through like some of the leaks that came out during the recent years, what have been like some of the things that popped up that seem, even if it's like a slight but somewhat of a surprise to you, as choices of, oh, they're doing this character.
Uh, so I'll say that I didn't fucking expect them to do a Beast Machines Cheetor. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't the Bumblebee. Sorry, it wasn't the Bumblebee. It was the Cheetor. It was the Beast Machines Cheetor that was the one that surprised me.
Oh, the one that they basically based it off the Mighty Kids meal.
Yeah, no, yeah, that one, that video did well enough to surprise me. Also because, so one of the reasons that it also surprised me, it wasn't the Bumblebee. One of the reasons it surprised me was because no one gives a shit about Beast Wars. Like, one of the worst things I ever did was when I did the month of Beast Wars. Even though it meant a lot to me to do a month of my favorite show, that tanked my viewership so badly that my channel has struggled to recover from it ever since. Which is it's just really, that was really disappointing to me. But yeah, when I make Beast Wars videos, no one gives a shit because everyone's here for the G1 shit. And then fucking the Beast Machines Cheetor video comes out and it's shorter than normal, so those are videos that always do kind of badly. And it's a Beast Machines video, so like even fewer people should care, considering the fact that Beast Machines is significantly less popular than Beast Wars, and Beast Wars is already significantly less popular than G1. And yet that video came out and it went well past my expectations. So yeah, I'll say that I didn't expect them to do Beast Machines Cheetor at all. That was kind of a shocker to see. It was very interesting to see them start doing like things outside of G1. They really went outside their wheelhouse. Thundertron, I didn't expect.
Yeah, and it makes me curious on how they're going to do for the Walmart exclusive, the leader class Thundertron.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming what they're going to do is the Voyager class, but packed with extra things. Knowing Hasbro.
Potentially, there's a solid chance of that. Another thing I didn't expect them to do was for them to re-release Power Hug. Fucking retracts. No one gives a fuck about retracts.
And one of the leaks that they recently at WonderCon confirmed in the bridge reveals is Vector Prime.
Yeah, I don't think that was recent, but yeah, no, that's that one after like the rest of the things that we saw, I was like, okay, this makes sense. I think I heard that Vector Prime is going to be a G-Axis retool, if I'm not mistaken, which that was a good mold. I don't know how much they are going to retool it,
but one thing that got that when they did, because during WonderCon they only showed uh, brought up like a handful of figures, but only showed like two of them with actual character images, and that was uh, what the Shatter Striker mold is destined to become, and and the depiction of Vector Prime is not the Cybertron Vector Prime, but the image that they made for the Covenant of Primus. So, so possibly something his if the when they do come out with it, it's going to be even more of an old looking guy than the original Vector Prime did.
We'll see.
Yeah. So, what kind of hopes do you have for their for the next year's Generations line Transformers Prime that they're doing, or whatever they're calling it?
When you say like what kind of hopes do I have, you mean like just like general feelings, or what do like I hope to see?
What you hope to see, and I guess also general feelings of what potential you see in that line with what you heard of it so far.
I expect it will probably be. I expect it will probably be good. It's. I'll say that like Legacy Wave 1 definitely seemed like stumbled more than I remembered it doing. But I think it's got a good chance to be a pretty good line. As for what I hope to see in it, obviously Bruticus, obviously I mentioned earlier, Depth Charge and Rampage. A Quick Strike would be good. Obviously I just want more Beast Wars stuff. Just give me more Beast Wars stuff. Give me even the toy exclusive Beast Wars stuff like you did with Snarl / the Tasmanian Kid. But let's see, who else do I hope to see like from G1 specifically, or any of the other stuff. The thing is, they've done so many characters that it's kind of like you're sifting through. It's like, okay, so who haven't they done, or who did they do badly enough that I hope they redo them? I would hope to see a good version of Cliffjumper eventually.
One of my hopes is since they have been going back to past lines is for them to do the Viacon Generals from Beast Machines.
Yeah. I just mentioned that recently. I would absolutely kill for a Obsidian and Strike Up, but I'd want Strike Up to be the IDW version, because like just goddamn, her Beast Machines version is just, I don't know what they were going for.
I don't think they knew what they were going for.
It's like fat and bulky, but also skinny and gangly at the same time. It's not great.
Yeah, and also a nice version of the motorcycle thrust.
He will have a hard time standing.
Yeah, that is for sure. But having a nice modern version of him and the other two would be nice. Because I did like the Viacon Generals and like the original three and their designs. Not necessarily how they got characterized, especially with how they turned Thrust into a joke.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I appreciated the joke of that he was actually Waspinator. I thought that was funny, but the fact that he was ever like after that, he was just never a deal again. He was just, from then on, he was just weak.
It's because they reawakened the Waspinator strength.
Waspinator's invulnerability to good luck.
Yeah, seeing how during the finale, all he was just a thrust head with fly wings. So, has there been any Transformer series where you don't like the story, but you like the character designs?
Not really. That's another problem with Transformers, is that for some reason there is just this contingent of jackasses who get put in charge of each show, and they're like, let's make the characters as ugly as fucking possible. So many of the fucking shows are just painful to look at. Like what I saw of Earthspark, the animation was glorious and gorgeous. Everything was fluid and nice. It was well scripted. It was well choreographed. I was liking what I was seeing. I was liking the story, but the character designs just hurt to look at. The faces are all just uncanny as fuck. And then you got, obviously Prime, which is just boring in every single conceivable way. And then you have Animated, which again had a good story, but it was like it was like they were trying to find the ugliest possible thing that they could make it. What's funny is I mentioned earlier, like a week or two ago, that like the low frame rate of it was awful, and people were like, every show is animated at 2 frame or on 2s, and I was like, that's not true. But also, Animated isn't animated on 2s, it's animated on 4s. It's obscenely just low, and I don't know, because that wasn't hand drawn. Animated was not hand drawn. Animated was done with like modern digital tools, which it should not happen on 4s with modern digital tools. There's no reason to. You could always just tween stuff. I hate Animated's frame rate so much. Like the show is ugly enough already. It didn't need to be like frame rated like I've taken a head injury. But yeah, no, I tend to think that most Transformer shows are just painful to look at, just because for some reason people keep going, no, we have to make them really ugly, otherwise they're not compelling. I don't know why. There are a lot of Transformers art styles out there that I think are really cool. The ones that I can like think of off the top of my head are like the IDW Alex Milne style. Looks sick as fuck. And if you've ever heard of like an artist on Twitter, they're called like Lex Toe Draws stuff, and they don't just draw Transformers, but when they do, they like did Transformers animated in a style where it kept some of the animated flair, but like also incorporated like an IDW twist to it. And I thought that looked great. It was like, why didn't Animated look like that? Like, it doesn't have to have the detailed shading that this does, but if it was just built like this, I would have loved it. Also, if it wasn't animated at fucking 4s.
All right, so now let's reverse the question where you like the story, or I guess you just kind of also answered that, where you like the story but not the character design, because you just went on saying that's most of Transformers.
Yeah, animated. I like the story. I like the characters. I like the voice acting. I think it's got a really good like interpretation of Megatron. Whenever I see Megatron's holoform in IDW, I always picture animated Megatron's voice. I can't like it just I don't hear like the raspy G1 Megatron out of that. I can't. I hear that like heavily vocoded digital thing from Animated, and that's. Yeah, I like Animated for the story, the writing, the characters, except for the first season. I struggle to get through the first season just because of all the human villains who I could not give less of a shit about.
Because it was all a build-up to bring back Megatron.
Yeah, that's like the one reason why like you kind of like you want to get through the first season, is that way you have the build-up. But if I could, I would like... I would want someone to go through, not me personally do it, and just be like, okay, so here are the most important episodes for the build up to Megatron. Watch these like 4 episodes and then just jump to season 2 pretty much.
So in the comics, what has been some of your favorite storylines that came from there?
So I can say that without a doubt, my favorite storyline in all of IDW is the original Windblade miniseries. I love that story to death. It was actually the first of the IDW comics I ever read. Back before I even knew what IDW was, I was just like, oh, hey, there's this... Because basically I learned about that because I saw a picture of the way that they drew Waspinator, and he was like in that, and I was like, wait, there's a show where... or there's a comic where Waspinator is like the size of every other Transformer. Let me see this. What is this? I got to read this. And I fucking read it, and I just absolutely loved every second of it. It's got absolutely just gorgeous artwork. I would love to see the. I forget their names right now. I think one of them was named Sarah, but I might be wrong. But I would love to see those two women paired together for more. The Windblade miniseries #2 fucking sucks. It's trash. It is completely incomprehensible. Even if you are reading it in context with the other Combiner Wars stuff that's coming out at the time, it was fucking awful. But the first Windblade miniseries, just primo storytelling, and the art was just some of my favorite art in the comic of all time. And it really established these characters, and it was really cool to like be like, wait, this is what the fuck is going on? Wait, Megatron is an Autobot now, and Starscream is the ruler of what the fuck is this comic series? This is so weird. And then I like, what's funny is that it didn't motivate me to like read the rest of the comic. And then I eventually did. I went through and I read the rest of the comic. I'll say that like perhaps that maybe this is a bit of an edgy pick. I thought that All Hail Megatron was pretty good. That was actually what's funny is like I read the Wind. Actually, no, it kind of did. So the Windblade miniseries did motivate me to go and read more of the IDW comic. But I started reading the All Hail Megatron, and then I was like, this is pretty cool. And then I stopped and I forgot that I'd done that. And then I started reading through IDW in earnest again, where I was like, I'm going to read through from the beginning to the end. And then I got to All Hail Megatron, and I didn't remember it for a while. And I got to a point, I was like, oh, I remember reading this. I remember reading this a while ago. So I liked All Hail Megatron. I liked All Hail Megatron. I think the IDW comic is actually kind of boring before All Hail Megatron. Then you get to All Hail Megatron. All Hail Megatron's pretty good. Then it gets kind of boring again all the way up until the true end of the war, where Megatron is like truly defeated and he becomes an Autobot. At which point, as soon as like that whole arc starts where Megatron becomes an Autobot, and then from then on, I think the comic is really good. And obviously, like the Lost Light, and the MTMTE.
Yeah, like I really like the story of Lost Light and the whole Autobot Megatron.
Yes, no, that whole segment is great. I think that's where like the best work was being done at the time.
Okay, so a little tech issue happened on my end, which I'm not completely sure on what happened. But for some reason, Discord wasn't able to pick up on my mic, so he couldn't hear me until I unplugged my mic. And OBS wasn't able to capture things that well on my end. But I do have audio from Perspective's end of things where I got to ask him stuff like, what was his least favorite part of Beast Wars?
It's a little hard for me. A lot of people really hate on season 3. I don't think season 3 is that bad. I'd say that if I could fix a few things about Beast Wars, I would say that I would actually try to make Quick Strike a little more threatening. I remember as a child growing up and thinking he was like an actual dangerous bad guy, and now as an adult I'm like, oh, this guy's useless. And that's making one of the villains completely useless. Like Waspinator is kind of useless in a different way, but that's really just due to his bad luck. It's a good joke, and he theoretically could be dangerous and useful in certain scenarios. But the fact that like you already got Waspinator who struggles, and then you got Quick Strike, and then you got like meanwhile they're facing down the fucking the Autobots. They're facing down the fucking Maximals, and the Maximals are all at this point like they're all fucking death on wheels. And it's like, this is you've really kneecapped yourself here by making just a fucking, like, Megatron has himself and Rampage and kind of Inferno. That's they're now sufficiently outnumbered by people who are better than them. The only thing that he has going for him is having an unkillable fucking monstrosity on his side. And even then, that unkillable monstrosity would much rather be doing anything else than doing what Megatron wants. So it's yeah, I would try and make Quick Strike into something of a competent opponent. But for the most part, and then outside of like adding in, like new episodes, I would love to see the Shattered Mirror episode where it was going to be like Rat Trap uploading Dinobot's memories into Dinobot 2. Oh, and that's another thing is I would make Dinobot 2's like standing up to Megatron be a bit more like dramatic, like instead of like just turning around and being like, no, I'm not going to do what you say, and then Megatron just bitch slaps him so hard he dies, I would have him like fight back.
I made a comment about how I would change the Vok from Beast Wars because I felt like they didn't do a lot in the series, but mostly in the later two seasons of the series.
I think they did plenty. I think that because the whole thing is kind of like based on them. It for me the mystery of them, this big like, oh, what does all this stuff do? Why is this here? All this shit. I find that to be the more important aspect of their characters is that they are unknowable.
Then I asked the final question of what was his least favorite parts of the G1 cartoon.
I mean, obviously, the tone, or not the tone, but like obviously, it's incredibly silly, and it needs to, it could stand to even out a bit. What's funny is there's not actually as many animation errors in the show as people think, which might surprise you because if you watch through it, you'll see a shitload of animation errors. But the problem is that the versions that we have now are all based on like the Rhino HD DVDs that they released like a decade ago at this point. And for some reason, Rhino, the company, fucking got it up their nose that they were going to fucking fix the show somehow and they were going to reanimate a whole bunch of shit. And so they went through and they reanimated like a whole lot of scenes of the show themselves and they fucking ruined it. They introduced a whole lot of animation errors. If you see VHS rips of people who recorded the show back in the day and you compare them side by side with the Rhino cut of the show, you will see that the original show looked like it didn't have a 50th of the animation errors that the Rhino DVDs introduced. Yeah, it's really weird. You'll go through it. It's like the funny thing is even I had bought into it and I had seen the show growing up and I was just like I'd seen the DVDs more times since and I was like, okay, so like obviously like this was always here. And I just kind of like gaslit myself into believing it. But then like I had someone come to me and like they pointed out, they're like, here are the episodes side by side. This is the VHS rip from just a recording of the TV. And while it's like grainy as shit and the colors are off because it's a 40-year-old VHS copy, this is what it looks like compared with the Rhino DVDs. And they did stuff like just redraw faces. So a lot of like the really horrifying mutant faces in the Rhino DVDs, they just weren't there. They just looked normal. It's really weird.
And that concludes this interview with a VTuber. Hopefully this won't be the last time I will be able to interview a YouTuber. I'll definitely look into finding more people I can interview. And I'll make sure to put links that you can copy and paste in the description to Perspective's socials in case you're interested and all that. And this has been quite the learning experience. So I now have a better idea what to do next time in my next interview, and I already have questions to ask Perspective in case he's interested to do another interview in the future. Who knows? Well, anyways, this is Z Square signing off, telling you see you next time, or you are Z Square.
Well, then that concludes this interview. I am ending it now. This is my choice. Deal with it, nerd.